door.
Yeah.
And in August, I visited and found that it was a temple. And I've been drawn to the compassion and love of Buddha for probably 10 years. So this is my very first time being with meditation and learning the path of Buddhism.
Beautiful. Welcome.
Thank
It's a
you.
long flight from Louisiana all the way to come to the Dharma Belt.
Well, I am also here for Christmas for my sister.
That's a side.
Yeah, that was a side.
Since I'm going to the Dharma Belt temple, I might as well visit my sister.
Yeah. And actually, they have a party or something. She says, I understand.
Yeah.
You may not make it today.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Who else here for the first time? Hand in the back there, yeah. Yeah, you, yeah, sorry.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I've been on and off thinking about Buddhism and actually see so much therapists who lots of things that we're doing involves Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths. Like, well, she gave me a little flyer. It's like, so my son and I both like, well, we have a free Saturday. Let's check it out. So I'm real excited to be here.
Nice, thank you. Well, welcome. I always joke, and sometimes people like this joke and sometimes people don't, but I say half the people here are in therapy and the other half are therapists. You know? And then the rest probably could be in therapy. I don't know how I never ended up in therapy. Other questions? Or I should say, who's here for the first time? Yeah, what brings you here?
Hi, I'm Han.
Hi.
My dear friend Benson has been coming and he's wanting to introduce us to something.
Yes.
Help us with that.
His posse is growing. Thanks. Well, welcome. Anyone here who's always here? Nancy, why do you keep coming back?
I don't know.
Same. I don't know. Perfect. All right, so we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things to tell you for those who may be sitting for the first time or here for the first time. Nothing's going to happen to you, right? You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences, most likely. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. What I mean by that is don't ask yourself, is this working? Is this not working? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe, all right? You won't think nothing. Often people think that meditation is about going blank and thinking nothing. You'd end up telling yourself, think nothing, think nothing, think nothing, and it's kind of a waste of time. Might as well get up and go do something, okay? But don't judge this. We judge things all day long, what we look like, what we wear, what we eat. We're constantly in this judgment mode. And the practice of meditation is learning to go beyond judgment and just abide in sensation of breath. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on the cushions, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward slightly. Allows the back to straighten. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable for you. Shoulders are relaxed. If you're on the chairs or benches, also just trying to sit up straight. Eyes will be closed if comfortable. Mouth open or closed. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. We'll be done in about 3 hours. And starting with your eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding your attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet. Wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. With the body still, rested. The speech quiet, aware of all sounds. The mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. The most important practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, it's quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment. It's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the Buddhist statue or incense or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than anyone in this room, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for every one of us in this room, regardless of where we come from, or what we believe in, or where we think we're going, our whole life is filled with things that happen. We react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. The practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. For most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your life. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives, but with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. Meditation is not necessarily fun, but it's free. It's sitting, breathing, becoming aware of your thoughts, what you think and what you say and what you do in every moment. Meditation is not an escape, as often people think it is. It's not closing your eyes and pretending you're sailing down a river and looking at all the birds and trees and flowers and thinking life is grand. We have enough escapes in our lives. Most of them probably pretty unhealthy, with a couple healthy ones sprinkled in. This practice of learning to be with what actually is happening. And it doesn't mean what's happening is good or bad or right or wrong, but it is what's happening. And in each moment, we have the opportunity to choose how we want to respond to that moment. And is it with greed, anger, and ignorance? Or is it with generosity, compassion, and wisdom? That is the question we are faced with every second of our entire lives. That is the practice. That is not easy. Often people think that if you just meditate, everything is going to get better. Meditation will not change your life at all. Meditation will help slow you down so you can become aware of your thoughts, and what you think and what you say and what you do. And you can then begin to make changes in your life, which is where the problems arise to begin with. Meditation is just sitting and breathing. You all survived. Amazing. The question is, what are you going to do when you walk out that door? For the last 20 minutes, you were all silent. For the last 20 minutes, you didn't move too much. And the last thing is, what did your mind do for the last 20 minutes? Please don't answer that question. We'd be here till midnight. 30 years from now, midnight. So the challenge is to begin to recognize that with that mind that you just sat with for 20 minutes, that raced and raced and raced and went from pleasant thought to unpleasant thought to neutral thought to pleasant thought to unpleasant thought to neutral thought, with that racing mind that just went absolutely crazy for 20 minutes, that's the mind you live with every day. That's the mind that you run around with, interacting with people. That's the mind that you try to get things done with. That's the mind we must learn to sit with. When we sit silently for 5 minutes, what are we left with? Your mind. What are we often trying to run away from our entire lives? Our mind. We have a problem here, right? That's the challenge. Learn to sit with the mind. For those who are maybe sitting for the very first time, learn to sit with your madness. It's not going away anytime soon. Learning to sit with it is the first step. So I want to touch on something very briefly and then just open up to questions. In case you haven't figured it out, it is the holiday season. And the holiday season can be a wonderful, joyous, beautiful, happy time. And it can also be the opposite of all of that. It can be sad, it can be lonely, it can be depressing, it can be frustrating, it can be irritating. Often when we spend time around those we know and love the most, we get challenged the most. And so the holidays are an incredible time to practice one of the what's called 6 paramitas, which is patience. Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. This is the path of the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva means enlightened being. It is a practice to go from a world of samsara, of suffering, of misery, of unhappiness, to a world of happiness, joy, peace, contentment. Getting through your day without wanting to jump off a cliff. Right? And so we use the paramitas, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom, to go through this journey. And not just this time of year, but always, patience is critical. Right? I mean, it's only like 11:30 by now. Did anyone get annoyed and frustrated already this morning? Right? How long do you think it's going to take before you walk out that door and someone does or says something you don't like? Right? Or something happens that you don't want? All day, that's going to happen. Whether it's from those you know and love or whether it's from complete strangers. Right? And this is an opportunity to practice patience. When we're put in a position to practice patience, what that means is what's happening, we're not okay with. If we were okay with it, we wouldn't have to practice patience. We would just be fine with it. But when things happen that we're not okay with, we don't feel so good. It doesn't sit so well with us. And we often want to fix it, change it, correct it. Tell everyone else what they should do. I'm sure nobody here ever does that, but just in case.
Never.
Right? And so the practice of patience allows you to understand that what people are doing is what they need and want to be doing. That is what they chose to say or think or do. And the practice of patience is to understand that everybody's coming from their own place. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean we agree, doesn't mean we disagree. You ever have people who get frustrated with you? No, I didn't think so. Right? It's always nice to be around people who don't frustrate anyone. It's so beautiful to sit with such an enlightened crowd. Thank you all for playing. So as you go through the next few days, and we kick into the new year, watch, just for today, watch how important patience will be. as you go through your afternoon, right? You'll have plenty of opportunities before the sun even sets to practice patience. And when we do practice patience, we give somebody else the opportunity to be comfortable with being who they are. And that's really important because we want people to be comfortable with who we are. So I'll stop there and just open up to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with that I can address. Yes.
What about not being comfortable with who I am?
What about it?
I basically have spent, I don't know, the last 20 years filled with self-hate and self-loathing for the lack of accomplishments and the choices I've made in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been sitting for a while and doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it hasn't seemed to reduce much. So I was wondering your thoughts on something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we're often our toughest critic. You know? Did you wake up today?
Yeah.
Did you eat today?
Yeah.
Did you somehow have the means of transportation to get here?
Yeah.
Thankfully, you've found clothes to put on.
Yes, thank you.
Right? Sounds like you've accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
Why don't you start there? You can't have, when I look at the Buddhist teachings, I look at having gratitude and appreciation for simple things in life. And this path and this practice is not about accomplishments. The Buddha was a homeless, wandering beggar. He had everything. All the wealth, all the riches, everything, palace. He was a prince. He left all of that to have 7 items. A robe, a bowl, needle with thread to sew the robe, razor to shave his head, block to shave the razor, a strainer so when the water went through there weren't any bugs or anything eaten. I think you've accomplished 7 things today. I just rattled off like 4 or 5 of them, and if I thought hard enough, I could probably get 2 more. Did you accomplish sitting in the sun so you can feel the warmth? Phenomenal. Did you accomplish having the courage to ask a question? Excellent. Pretty sure there's 7 things you've accomplished that are quite remarkable. And I'm pretty sure not one of those 7 things was remotely close to what you find important in life. So I suggest that instead of trying to unravel 20 years of self-loathing and hatred towards yourself, which isn't helping, I'm just repeating the obvious.
Yeah.
Right? And you've heard me talk about this a lot, but we get stuck in our stories. Your story is, I've been miserable and hated myself for 20 years. Can you change anything about the past 20 years? 0. So you have 2 options. Let's say you live another 20 years. You can spend the next 20 years with the same story, and then 20 years from now, if I'm still alive, I'll be sitting here. If you're still alive, God knows you'll still be sitting there, right? And you'll be raising your hand, and you'll say, for the last 40 years, right? What I'm suggesting is start each moment, each day, with recognizing what you accomplished and what you can appreciate that you have, based on what you actually need, not based on what society says you should have or what friends or family say you should have. We will never win that game, right? Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Yes, I'm so glad I'm 25 years old and a successful consultant making lots of money. You know what? I'm going to walk away from all that, and sorry, I'm just going to go to a monastery. That was so liberating. I'm not suggesting you go to a monastery, but you have to undo your story. And it sounds so simple to do, it's not. But it starts with not starting every day and every question and every moment and every group and every therapy, hope you don't mind me saying that, and every session and every meeting with, hi, I'm so-and-so, and let me tell you about the 20 years of misery of my life. One of my favorite Zen expressions is, to a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish. You gotta think about that for a while. It might take many years, but, right? Where we put our time, our energy, our mind, our heart, is what our world is. And your entire world is living the 20 years of misery that you're asking each question with. You know? Hi, I'm Steve. I woke up today. I had food to eat, place to sleep, transportation, clothes to wear. I got to sit in the sun, and I got to hang out with a bunch of people. Mission accomplished. Done. If that's your bar, you have a phenomenal life. So, the Eightfold Path starts with the correct view. Really investigate what the view is of what you feel is accomplishments. Yes?
I appreciate it.
What
Yes.
is the Eightfold Path?
Eightfold Path. So the fundamental core Buddhist teachings, right? I mean, it's the first thing he taught. There's above the exit sign up there. Ironically enough, we put it there. Is the Buddha teaching the Four Noble Truths, and it's the first teaching he gave at Deer Park after he awakened, right? And they're like, wow, he looks like he's figured something out. We'll call him the Buddha. Buddha just means awakened one. They went and they sat down and he taught the Four Noble Truths, right? All of Buddhist teachings start here. It doesn't matter what school, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Tibetan, whatever school you're in, the fundamental core teachings are the Four Noble Truths. The first one is life is suffering. Doesn't mean all of life sucks, right? The word is dukkha, translates to suffering. Kind of a terrible translation in the English language, because when we hear suffering, it just sounds so miserable, right? But do you like mayonnaise? What
Not a
food do you
lot
hate?
of it.
Not a lot of it, all
I
right?
hate liver.
You hate liver, so you go to the deli and you order a sandwich and you say, hold the liver. I don't know why you ever say that, but you're like, no liver. And all of a sudden you get your deli sandwich and there's liver on it, right? You're not happy.
Not at all.
That is dukkha, that is suffering, right? We experience dukkha every day, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, every day of our entire lives. Things happen that we don't like. It's too hot, it's too cold, the music's too loud, it's not loud enough, right? A constant process. So that's life is dukkha, suffering. The second one is the cause. The cause is greed, anger, ignorance. We always want more. We're angry at how it's working out. And we're ignorant, thinking that our view is correct. We overcome greed, anger, ignorance with generosity, compassion, wisdom. We give time, we give attention, we give heart, we give love, we give smiles, we give whatever we can. All right? That's how we overcome greed. We overcome anger with compassion, understanding, love, listening. Right? And we overcome ignorance with wisdom. Having the wisdom to know that your view isn't correct. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's your view. Right? The third one is the ending of suffering. Right? Second one is the cause. The third one is the ending of suffering. Nirvana, liberation, going through your day and being okay. Right? Freedom from suffering. The fourth one is the Eightfold Path. That is the path that the Buddha taught to lead one out of suffering, right? And it's 8 steps. And it starts with, as I mentioned, the correct view. Then you have thoughts, right? Speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. Correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. All of them available on Google for free. Right? Just Google Eightfold Path and you'll probably find enough translations that work for you. Right? You can't ruin those too bad. I mean, you can, but stick to the first Google page search. You start scrolling to like page 6 at the bottom, you'll be done. So that's the Eightfold Path, and it's funny because Buddhism is this 2,500-year-old thing, rich in culture and tradition and ritual and lineage and nuns and monks and all these amazing things. And that's beautiful. But it's also really simple steps. It's probably everything your parents taught you when you were 5 years old, or somebody taught you when you were 5 years old. Right? Somehow we just didn't always listen. And here we are later in life, and we're like, maybe I should go back to listening to what somebody taught me when I was a little child. So that's the Eightfold Path. Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of, I found a lot of great Buddhist teachers really kind of sum up that all of Buddhist, he taught for 45 years. They say there's 84,000 paths. But for 45 years he taught. So that means he said thousands and thousands of different teachings and practices and ways, but it's all based right there in those Four Noble Truths. That's it. That's the entire embodiment of the teaching. Other questions? What's that?
Very simple.
Very simple. But we sure do complicate it, you know? Very simple. Yes?
So my question is about giving. You see so much hurt around you, you know. So how much giving is adequate? Because you always feel like you never do enough. So how much do you, yourself, your time, your attention, your treasure, your talent, do you give away? So it's enough.
You know, on a very personal, practical level, there's no exact answer to that, right? I'll give you my understanding of the Buddhist teachings around giving. Well, before I get to that, always you have to ask yourself, my suggestion is to ask yourself, similar to what Steve was saying, is that you can give and give and give, but if your tank is empty, you got nothing left to give, right? Oxygen mask falls, they tell you to put it on yourself first and then the child. So giving and giving and giving is great, but often when I go off on my rant about, you know, people taking care of the Dharma temple, I refer to Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. Because what ends up happening, who's read The Giving Tree, right? What ends up happening just becomes a stump. People still sit on it, right? So you got to take care of yourself first. Give loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. Everything you've heard, you know, Irene and Jason and Josh and everybody talk about on Wednesday nights with the metta practice. Always that loving kindness has to start to yourself. Then when you give, ideally, right, in a strong mind, strong-hearted way, you don't ever feel depleted because you are so okay that you can give and give and give, right? My first master, somebody asked him, do you ever feel like your teeth, you know, he's in his 80s, he's actually 90 now, but he'd been a monk since he was 12, so 70 plus years as a monk, and somebody said, do you ever feel you're being taken advantage of? And he said, that's what I'm here for, right? His mind, his heart was so strong and so solid that he never felt like anyone was walking on him, taking advantage of him. He felt like he was a resource for people, right? Now, I'm not saying that any of us are there, but that's just an example of we must take care of ourselves. Then the question is, you know, what does it mean to actually give? And the word is dana, and the Buddha taught very clearly dana, which is generosity, to give. And the funny thing is, the root cause of our suffering, second noble truth, is greed. The first thing to overcome greed is generosity. So the number one practice to end suffering is to give. But what does it mean to give, right? The Buddha said to feel pleasant before, pleasant during, and pleasant after. Right? You ever given a gift to like a child? There was a Sri Lankan master years ago. He gave a great metaphor, and he said, it's like shopping, you know, buying a bike for a child. You feel good before, right? You're looking for this bike, you're excited because you can imagine what this kid's going to be like opening up this bike, you know. And then during, while you give the bike, you're so thrilled. And then you see the kid ride off and probably fall a few times, you know, and you feel sad that the kid fell, but you're still excited. You feel good about this entire process of giving. That's true generosity, right? Giving when you don't have much to give, right, is another factor of giving. It's not about, you know, the one who has $1 billion that gives away $1 million. Right? It's about the one who doesn't have much that finds ways to give. It's the intention behind the gift. Right? Always the intention behind the gift. And like I said earlier, I ran through quickly, but you know, you give people attention. I think that's what you listen to them. I think it's one of the greatest gifts we can give people. Listen to people, right? Give them respect, give them love, give them attention, give them a hug, give them a smile. Just be present with people. Give them an opportunity to take, because that's what they need. But I can't say, nor do I get anything out of the Buddhist teachings that say where that fine line is. Because we're not enlightened folks, we're unenlightened, no offense, you know. people trying to get through our day. So there's going to reach a point where you're going to feel like you're giving too much and you're being taken advantage of. And my suggestion in a very practical sense is to recognize that point for you. And that's going to be different for everyone in this room. Recognize when you feel that you're giving too much and it's depleting you and you're just going to become that empty tank, you know? Because when you feel destroyed and defeated, do you ever feel like giving? No. Does that help? Yeah. So explore that, watch that, be aware. And all these things that we ask questions about, I'm not just saying this in reference to you or Steve's question, but all these things that we ask, it can't just be like Saturday morning at 11 o'clock where we're exploring this stuff. Because everything I'm saying right now, if you walk outside and you just completely forget all of this, this was worthless, right? So take these two things, watch today when you feel that you're giving and when you feel that you're being taken advantage of. Watch when these things happen and what it does to you. Watch today when you go through your day and you feel like you're failing, you're not achieving your highest expectations of yourself. Watch what happens when you feel that way. Watch what happens when you start to criticize yourself, when you start to doubt yourself, and you start to think that you're worthless. Watch these things. And recognize they all will pass. Does that help at all? Yeah. Other questions?
Following up on that, it seems like there's a fine line though. When you say the greatest gift is listening, sometimes I struggle with when people go on and on about, and then I sit there and I think, is this me? Is this the fine line between, do I sit here and just listen even though I'm getting annoyed that you're just going on and on and on about, or do I stop it? And then I'm going to hurt them.
So I think you answered your own question. The question is, why is it bothering you? The question is not, do you stop them or not stop them? Again, we can't turn this practice is not to turn this around and in that moment tell them when they feel they should stop going on and on and on. The question is for you to ask yourself, why is this bothering you? And I talked about this the other night where, everyone out there is our greatest teacher. The people that do the things you're talking about, those are your teachers, right? In that moment, unless you already have that dynamic where somebody has said, hey, will you work with me, help me out, when I'm going on, unless they've kind of set up that dynamic where they want you to tell them when they're going on and to be kind of a bumper for them, right? Or a shield in a way. To just go to somebody and be like, yo, you need to stop going on and on and on, that's you. They don't need that. If they didn't want to keep going on and on and on, they wouldn't. So I also don't, just to back up, I may have said personally that I think listening to people is one of the greatest gifts, but I'm not tying that into a very clear Buddhist teaching. I just think that that's a beautiful thing that we can do because it is what often people need the most. I spoke about this a couple weeks ago where we had an incident on a Saturday afternoon class. I don't want to get too far into it, but we've all been in groups, right? And when the person who's going on and on and on is not the person up here, I've just been going on and on for 25 minutes. You should have told me to shut up a long time ago. Now, if somebody out there were going on and on and on for 25 minutes, you'd all be really annoyed. Maybe what the people out there have to say is more beautiful than anything I got to say. So in a class, somebody was going on and on and on, and it bothered people. And they wanted to tell him. And they wanted to tell this person that they weren't okay with that. Deal with it. That's what they need to do. Especially in places like this, So, again, I understand you that yes, there's that fine line. And as you've heard me say in the past, and often this comes up in relationships, like when is it too much? Which is a little bit different from you phrased it, but just to give it a clear example for everybody really, when you're in a relationship, for example, and you feel like you're constantly just being taken advantage of, stepped on, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it might be, the Buddhist thing doesn't mean you just sit there and take it and say, well, I'm going to be Buddhist, so I'm going to let you punch me. No, there is a point where you say, this is not healthy for me anymore, and I need to remove myself from that situation. But I still think, going back to your question, is to ask yourself, why is it unhealthy for you? And then it really comes down to, is it really our place and our right to tell people when they should stop? If they wanted to stop, they would stop. You can choose to walk away. But then the question I would suggest is ask yourself, why am I not okay with listening to them? Not why do they keep needing to go on and on, because you don't know that answer. The only thing you can know is why you're not okay with it.
Why it's so annoying to me.
Right.
Why is this annoying me so much?
Exactly. And what you want to do is shut them down in that moment so it doesn't annoy you anymore, right? And what I'm suggesting is that's worthless, because that's not you, that's them. The question should be, whether you walk away or not, is, why is this annoying? Yeah. Always fun.
Oh, yeah.
Other questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, or anything else before we wrap up?
Can you just quickly again go through the 4 and the 8?
Yeah.
And this.
Yeah,
just wanna absorb that.
absolutely. I'll close with this. 4 Noble Truths. The first one, life is dukkha, filled with suffering. Every day. Right? By 12:30, you'll have had about 50 things happen that you probably didn't want. Right? So life is filled with things happening that we don't want. We reckon that's the first noble truth, right? The second is the cause. What is the cause of our suffering? Our struggles, our angst, our disappointments. The cause of that is our greed, our anger, and our ignorance. The beauty of this is it removes, and it kind of goes back to Nancy's question, is it removes our happiness and our state of mind has nothing to do with anybody else. We want to point fingers, we want to blame, we want to say it's all their fault. We choose how we want to respond to people. Our greed, our anger, our ignorance. I want everybody to see the world the way I do. If everyone does that, then my life will be great. Impossible. That's the greed. I want the world to operate the way I want it to. How greedy is that? Doesn't everybody else have a right to do what they want? The anger, second cause of our suffering, is being angry because the world doesn't do what we want. Friends don't do what we want. Family doesn't do what we want. Strangers don't do what we want. The person making your latte at Starbucks doesn't do it the way you want it. I'm angry because they put 3 pumps instead of 4. And then the ignorance is understanding that we're ignoring the truth of reality.